What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing a beer from the Bell's Brewery, and they're out of both Kalamazoo and Comstock, Michigan, and this is their Hopslam Ale, the 2020 release. So this is what they're calling a double IPA that is brewed with honey, comes in at 10% alcohol by volume, 65 IBUs at the time of review. This can is just over 1 month old. So good old Hopslam. This is a beer that seems to be debated and talked about every single year it comes out, from the quality of the beer to whether or not it's overrated, to whether or not it's overpriced. A lot of people always drink this one, review it, and those seem to be the talking points. And for me, I'm going to review this one. We'll talk about it at the end, but just going to review this one. I will say, full disclosure, I've had this one before numerous times, and I've always enjoyed it. Is it the best beer that I've ever had from Bell's? No. Is it the best double IPA I've ever had? No. But I enjoy it, and I usually buy a can each year, and bought one this year, and I'm going to review it. Now, I didn't buy one last year, I don't think, but here we are. I shouldn't say I buy a can every year. It used to be just bottles. Now it's cans. I usually buy a bottle or a can. We'll go with that. Anyway, pour it into the glass. So yeah, that's looking like your old school IPAs, American IPAs, double IPAs. You know, it's not hazy, none of that stuff. It's an old school double IPA brewed with honey. I believe they also use honey malt in this. And I don't remember the hops for this one. Couldn't tell you. Whatever. So yeah, that pours out this really nice like copper color to it. Yeah, deep orange, copper, rust kind of color. Has about a finger of this off-white, creamy looking head. Pretty filtered. A little bit of murk in there, a little bit of maybe chill haze as well, but yeah, it looks fine. Let's get a nose. Yeah, so it's sweet on the nose. Would I say honey? No, it just has a generic sweetness to me. There's citrus tones. There's like pretty much orange, grapefruit. A little sweeter grapefruit, like a ruby red grapefruit. There's some pine resin on the nose as well. Touch of a floral character. Slight stone fruit vibes, more of like a sweeter peach. Definitely a big malt base to this one, in addition to the honey. I think, like I said, they're using honey malt, but it just has a bigger, bready, kind of sweet kind of malt base to it, which you expect, 10%. Yeah, it just smells good. I want to get into it. So cheers, everybody. Pretty much what I remember this beer being, and it's good. It's a good beer. I like it. Right up front, you can tell it's a sweet beer. And that honey is there. If I was doing this blind as like a whodunit beer review or mystery beer review, would I tell you it's honey? Probably not, but knowing it's in there, I can get it. It's kind of a generic sweetness, but then I'm getting a little bit of like a honey thing going on right in front of the palate. It's bready. It's honey. It's sweet. It's bready. A little bit of that honey. And then I'm getting more of like a sweet, like peach kind of stone fruit, sweet oranges, like juicy oranges, tangerines, a little bit of that ruby red grapefruit. That's all at the front of the palate. Passes through. The sweetness continues, but it dissipates as it goes through the palate. And then mid palate, I'm hit with this like pine resin, almost like just kind of grips your palate midway through. There's also like this floral sensation that hits as well. It starts to dry out on the palate. And then I get a little bit of alcohol on the palate. Now these, the first time I ever had Hopslam, and going back when they first introduced Hopslam and whatnot, you drank a double IPA at 10%. You knew it was a double IPA at 10%. I mean, it didn't, I would say maybe over the last 3 or 4 years, did breweries really start hiding alcohol extremely well in hop-forward beers. Like nowadays, I drink triple IPAs from a lot of different breweries, and they're 10+%, and they drink like they're 7 or 8. They hide them well. This one doesn't hide as well because this is an old school recipe, or an older school recipe, I should say. And I kind of expect the alcohol, so it definitely is in the palate. I have a chest warming, I have a stomach warming. I know it's a bigger beer. I'd probably guess at least 9% if I was doing it blind, and I'm okay with that. It's an older style, or I should say it's older recipe, and just, I understand that I'm going to get alcohol out of this, and I'm okay with it. So I think the finish has that alcohol stringency mixing in with like just the hops and the dryness. So it actually has a nice semi-dry, moderately bitter finish to this one, which I think it adds and enhances the drinkability of this one because it balances it out to some degree. First half of the palate, all that sweetness. Second half of the palate, the pine resin, the semi-dry finish, and the alcohol stringency, and the moderate bitterness from the hops. So I think it's a good balance. I think it leans slightly too much to the dry, kind of moderately bitter side for me at this point in my drinking career. Whatever. In me drinking craft beers at this point. I still enjoy it, but I think I'd like a little bit, that sweetness to carry on a little bit more, but I'm okay with it. Body on this one, higher side of medium, lower side of light. It's a bigger beer, but it's not thick and syrupy, at least not to my palate. The mouthfeel, crisp, quite carbonated, effervescent on the tongue. It's relatively smooth, though, the entire process of drinking this beer, so it has a nice smoothness to it. Listen, this is a good, well-made beer. I enjoy it. So I'm going to give a rating on Hopslam to how I'm digging this one. And this is usually for me, I have rated Hopslam anywhere from a 3.75 to a 4.25 typically most years. This year's version, the 2020 release of Hopslam Ale from Bell's, I'm going to go high 4 out of 5 and go 4.05 out of 5. I think it's a good, well-made beer. I think it's tasty. I think when you pick this one up, this is kind of what I expect from it. And I have no problems with it. So we'll talk about a little bit of the hype momentarily, but price and availability. Availability wherever you see Bell's. This shows up. You should be able to grab it. I grabbed it off of my shelf local here at a bottle shop. You should be able to find it nowadays if you get Bell's. And price point. Here's where we're going to start talking about the price point. $18 a six-pack. Okay, so here's the thing. In this day and age, $18 a six-pack is a great price for a beer that's 10% brewed with honey and as well made as this one, in my opinion. Some of you might disagree. It's hard to compare a beer like this to some of the other nationally distributed beers like, Lagunitas, for example. You get like the willetized coffee stout from them that's 12.4%. And I think 4 packs of that run $12-13 in my area. That's pretty much the equivalent of an $18 six-pack. So that's an amazing beer. This isn't as amazing. So at the end of the day, yeah, this is probably too expensive if you compare it to other breweries that get big distribution. But I'm a guy, and you can keep this in mind, I'm a guy that buys other half beers and other local beers where the going rate is pounder cans, 16-ounce cans for anywhere between $16 to $22 a 4-pack. So if you're talking about a 6-pack of 12-ounce cans for $18, to me, that's fine. And especially in this market nowadays. Now, going back when I first tried this beer, I think it was 6 years ago and 7 years ago. I think it was 2013, first time I had this one. Going back 7 years ago, and even when they started distributing into Western Europe, I believe in 2014, which was 6 years ago, I think that $18 a six-pack back then was fucking bonkers because you didn't have many breweries doing beers in 6-packs that were more than $12, let alone 15 or 18. So when people talk about the price point on this one and how overpriced is and whatnot, I don't think that's the case anymore. I think a $18 six-pack for this is right in line with what you pay nowadays. But if you want to compare it to beers out there 5-6 years ago, yeah, back then it was crazy overpriced. Nowadays, not so much. But again, it's in the eye of the beholder whether you think there's value here or not, or whether you think it's overpriced. To me, not overpriced. To you, it might be based on whatever your buying purchases are. So, or which your buying habits are. So to me, not overpriced. I think it's right in the market value of what you kind of expect to pay for a 10% Imperial or Double IPA brewed with honey. I think, $3 a can, fucking fine by me. Now, to come to the overrated part of this beer, I never found this beer to be, amazing or anything to my palate. And a lot of people say it's overrated. I don't think nowadays this beer is even, this sounds stupid. I don't even say it's rated. Like, I don't hear a lot of people nowadays going crazy about Hopslam. This is not 2013, 14, or 15. To me, it's 2020. There's 8,000 breweries now in the States and so many other places putting out, even locally to whoever's out there right now watching this. I'm sure you have a bunch of breweries locally that you can say make better beer than Bell's in your opinion, right? A lot of people will say that. So to me, this is not an overrated beer anymore because to me, it's not really rated. It's not a beer I don't think the masses clamor for every year. Don't get me wrong. Sure, there's a lot of people out there that love this beer and want to drink it every single year it's released. And I know why. I like this beer. I give it a 4+ out of 5. I do enjoy it. But I always hate I don't want to say hate, but watching videos on BeerTube or just watching people like super overrated, super overpriced. And it's just like, to who? I guess to them. So I don't know, I'm just rambling for no reason. Anyway, longer review. When it comes down to it, for me, Hopslam, it's a good beer. I think the price point is fine nowadays, and I don't think it's overrated. I don't think it's underrated. I think for what it is, it's a decent, actually say decent, it's a good, solid beer that I'll enjoy, and I'll probably buy a can of it every year. And yeah, that's all it is. That's all it comes down to for me, is that I enjoy it. So let me know what you think about this beer out there if you've had it before. And I know a lot of you have. It's always a beer that I'll try to grab almost every single year, and I think it's well made and tasty, and that's all. So another thing is that, like, our palates have changed. The beer landscape has changed. So there's a lot of beers like this that, were hyped, say 5, 6, 7 years ago, that nowadays people in 2020 or even last year in 2019 that will be like, oh, overrated or whatever. And it's just like the beer landscape has kind of changed to the point where, like, I don't even think this is in the realm of a lot of new age or new school beer drinkers, which kind of speaks to how older we are and how much we talk about this beer going back 6, 7 years ago. So yeah, anyway, Hopslam. 4.05 out of 5. I enjoyed it. If you've had it before, let me know what you think about it. Apologize for this long, rambling, probably saying nothing, but spending 5 minutes just talking about dumb shit review. If you watched to the end, I do appreciate it, and appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review. To the next one. Cheers. Oh yeah, 10%. I said it has an alcohol strength on the palate. Here's the thing though. As I drink on it, getting kind of acclimated to it, and it's hiding a little bit better than I anticipated, at least from the last time I had it. So yeah, I'm enjoying it even a little bit more. Cheers.